15,000 right now, too, in Jefferson County without power. So unfortunately, that number is going up while Kevin is getting his battery there fixed. Also, that Chris was telling us about that lane. It's US 50 closed in Lawrence County between Brown Station Road and State Road 446. That's where a lot of the damage was. They even mentioned that there was a possibility of a gas leak, although it had not been confirmed.
And 61,000 plus with outages, according to Duke Energy now across Indiana. And again, those totals going up in some counties as we speak, such as Harrison, up to about 1,000 now. Floyd County, they're showing 200 right now without power. Most of them are in Vigo and Monroe counties with totals of 16,000 plus in Monroe, 13,900 in Vigo. So a lot of work to be done there. Those crews are going to be busy with 61,000 plus outages. It's going to be a lot of work, and also for LG&E crews as well.
It just seems like this has been the worst spring ever. Kevin, I don't know.
You know, I can tell you it's been the deadliest severe weather season we've had since 1953. When you look at the storms that have occurred across portions of, well, the entire country for that matter this season. We're watching the radar view and want to get back to our viewers that may be just off to our south across portions of Grayson County, eventually across parts of Hart County, LaRue, and into portions of Greene and Taylor counties. We've not forgotten about you. We've been watching these storms, and we have our whole team here. Oftentimes what happens, and Andy can attest to this, when we're in severe weather coverage that's covering such a wide area, it's impossible to stay anywhere for a lengthy period of time, and we're simply just watching and seeing where, you know, as we dissect and then passing that information along and telling people who is next in line. But things seem to be weakening just a bit, and even though over the last few minutes we've not mentioned Bowling Green or Morgantown or Litchfield, it's just some heavy rain and gusty winds, maybe 35 to 40 miles an hour there. That will be pushing over toward portions of Hart, Greene, Taylor, and Adair County.
It does seem like this is turning into more of a heavy rain event now in those areas, and so we've seen kind of a gradual progression here, where we started, of course, early tonight with the extremely damaging tornadoes that occurred up near Bedford, then a high wind event west of Louisville. We did get wind gusts here, we think, to around 65 miles per hour, but we haven't gotten any reports like that over the last half hour to 45 minutes east of Louisville. The radar signature is still indicating some pretty heavy rains, certainly indicating a lot of rain, a lot of lightning out of these, but and I guess we've got the Mesonet sites up now, and I cannot see those numbers at all. So
these are the wind speeds from across Kentucky. Okay. Just the wind speeds. I can put on the wind gust here, and we'll see if they change much in the way of how fast those winds are blowing. But again, not too impressive across portions of Kentucky at this point as far as the major wind speeds go. Of course, that's at these reporting stations. Yeah, and people need to understand that maybe none of those specific cities are actually underneath the strongest part of the storm. Those are live, they were live wind gusts or wind speeds, but may not correlate to where the actual stronger winds in the storms are. So that's what we're looking at now. There are still a number of severe thunderstorm warnings in effect off to the east. All the warnings from Louisville west were expired here as of midnight. There are still a number of warnings. We'll update the big board here momentarily off to the east. And we haven't forgotten you, know, folks in places like Spencer County and Henry County, Nelson County. We have not forgotten you, but frankly, the storms were stronger to your west than they were when they moved into your region, and we really wanted to focus on where the strongest storms are. So that's what we're continuing to do. But we'll stay with you until these warnings expire, and we're confident that the storms will not flare up any further. Brian, have you got an update from any of the sites you're looking at?
Yeah, I just wanted to pass along. The big board has a lot of the warnings that are out there. We've got a lot of warnings still up and down the line. I think at this point it's now just being a precaution because of the history. They've had so much more than the confirmation. Let's take a look at the big board here. Lots to cover here on this list. Spencer County, as Andy was mentioning, until 12:30. Also have Trimble, Henry, Oldham, Franklin, Jefferson County, still in portions of Indiana there, as well as Nelson County, Washington, Grayson, and Owen. And I should also add onto the list, it's not on there yet, is Carroll County. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect as well. So still some damaging winds, the main threat, but still no more tornado warnings to talk about. And I think that's certainly the best news.
Yeah,
that we
and I
need
can
to-
tell you, when you look at the way things were earlier in the day, I don't think this situation was overhyped. When you consider what happened up in Bedford, that was the potential. Now,
Yeah.
I think we were fortunate enough here in Louisville that the storms came in a little bit later than we thought. Remember, originally we were in the mid-evening time frame, 8, 9 o'clock. They came in about 11, so a couple hours later. But I think that couple hours really helped us.
And we knew it would be west of 65 would be the main threat for the real intense tornadic activity, especially. So.
Yeah, and we had talked about that. Now, I know we'll wind up answering several emails that say, hey, thanks for scaring the death out of me or whatever. The idea is we've had tornado touchdowns in our area, and that's why we're even here. So we've felt like we've done our job. And actually, we're going beyond our job tonight just to make sure that folks' minds are eased, that as the system pushes through, there are no tornado warnings. But we want to stay on with you for just a little while longer. So as people prepare to go to bed, to make sure it's okay to go to bed, and especially as you look south of us where those storms continue to pack a punch of 50, 60-mile-per-hour winds moving through Grayson County, moving eventually into portions of Greene, Taylor, Adair, and Hart counties, that you know what's happening. So that's our commitment to you, and we'll be here for a little while longer. We have had trees and power outages here in Jefferson County, a number of power hits here at the station. Janelle McDonald is on the western side near Lytle, and there you see the road sign. Janelle, in Live Drive, what can you tell us?
Well, we're actually at Lytle and 17th Street, Kevin, in the Portland neighborhood, and as you can see, this is a tilted pole that a tree has somehow brought down. It's actually laying on the power lines. The power lines are stretched here a little bit, and we can see off to the right of the pole that you're seeing there a large branch that has fallen on some additional power lines. One of the interesting things here is that from where I'm looking, it looks like maybe a few people are actually without power, but most of this area still has power. So I know we've been checking in with LG&E and have seen about 10,000, maybe a few more power outages in the metro area. But even though there are some trees and wires down here in this area, it looks like most people still have their power here. However, obviously this would be a very dangerous situation. We've got an emergency crew behind us just checking out. This is one of the reports that we saw come into the Metro Safe Emergency Operations Center, and it was interesting when we were there because when we first got there, there were about 40 pending calls or 40 calls that were being responded to, about 10 pending, and they said, just wait, when the storm comes in our area, you're going to see that number light up. And really within about 5 minutes of the storm moving into the Jefferson County area, that had doubled. So they are certainly getting a lot of calls like this at Metro Safe. People are responding to situations like this, and it seems like from just us driving around that this is going to be a little bit more widespread. It's not going to be concentrated in any one area, but as the winds moved in, even if it wasn't a tornado, certainly it has caused some damage in Jefferson County.
Janelle, I know you spent some time over at Metro Safe. Can you give us an idea of other locations across the county that may have seen some of the same? I assume it was just trees and power lines down, that we saw no major structural damage anywhere in the city?
Not as far as I know. We have gotten a few reports of maybe some aluminum siding being torn off buildings and stuff like that. We'll check that out as we get a little bit more time to drive around the area. We rode out the main part of the storm as it passed through downtown in Metro Safe, and then as soon as it passed through downtown, we actually went out to see some of these reports that they were getting in, see them firsthand so we could bring them to you. So as the storm moved to the east, we weren't still at Metro Safe, but we didn't see any reports of any major building damage, but there were some reports, of course, of these downed trees and power lines. That seemed to be the majority of the reports and calls that they were getting in there.
All right, Janelle McDonald reporting from Lytle and 17th Street here in the west side of the city, and we have certainly been keeping an eye on what's happening there. Scott Reynolds and Don G here with me, looking up some of the latest power outages. And guys, we really dodged a bullet tonight. Folks in Bedford, Indiana, Norman up in Jackson County, they would say a different story. They were hit hard tonight, and tomorrow as the daylight comes, we'll wind up seeing what we had. Luckily enough, after we've seen some of the damage, by looking at that, we say thankfully there were no fatalities and 12 injuries.
Yeah, we did dodge a bullet. Nobody died. We did have injuries, and let me say at 4 a.m. tomorrow on Wave 3 Sunrise, we will start to look at that damage so everybody can see exactly what happened. But LG&E Many now reporting that 15,477 without power. Muhlenberg again now 946, Bullitt 300, Henderson 1,800. So there's some work to be done.
Yep,
And a lot of that is in West Kentucky. Of course, Jefferson and Bullitt here at home. And then in Indiana, I know we have several hard-hit areas up toward Indianapolis.
That's right. But as far as locally, Clark 441, Floyd 218 customers, Harrison with 918, then Crawford County with 1,567, and Jackson with 3,239. But as you get in our area, not nearly as bad as some of those spots you mentioned, Kev.
Yeah, we'll be watching these storms at about 12:15. We're going to go back to programming through the overnight, but we're going to stay here all night. Christy Dutton coming in on her day off tomorrow to man the Storm Center through the early morning hours. So she's been trying to get a little bit of sleep over the last couple of hours. Brian Good and Andy Weingartner in the Weather Center as well. And as we keep track of what's been going on, the major storm of the day has been the one up around the Bedford area. For folks at home that may ever want to know why we break into programming when tornado warnings are issued, we can show them some video of the reason why, and that comes out of Bedford, Indiana. And it's as simple as seeing some of those homes just destroyed, completely wiped off of their foundations. That's the reason we break into programming. Tonight, we're still on, letting the people know that the weather is calming down. It's okay to go to bed now across portions there. You're looking at some of that video. Let me give an all clear to some of the folks that may be watching across portions of southern Indiana. As a matter of fact, all of southern Indiana, it's okay to go to bed. You've got a little rain and some lightning around the area. In Kentucky, we're going to have some heavy rain continue across portions of the area, but the strongest storms happen to be well to our south across portions of Grayson County, and those storms are likewise weakening just a bit. Could still pack about 40, 50 mile per hour winds moving across Grayson County, may scoot across parts of Hart County. We'll keep our eyes on that. We know the thunderstorm warnings continue for you guys, and we're going to be watching it. So south of us, you may want to keep an eye on it just a little bit longer. We're going to be watching it, and we'll certainly break back in as necessary. We've got a couple more minutes here, and I'll turn to Andy Weingart and Brian Good behind me to see if you have any last-minute information. Andy?
Yeah, the wind, the latest wind gusts now are all in the 45 to 50 mile an hour range, so they're coming down. Good news there. I think we're pretty much below severe limits. All the southern Indiana counties have been cleared out of the tornado watch, and I suspect the rest of us, that will be happening here shortly.
Brian, you've been working with the social media and all the folks that have been logged on to our Facebook pages. We appreciate their reports.
Yeah, it's been busy in the chat room tonight on Facebook and as well on our pages. The pictures have been great. They really help out the reports. Because, again, we can only go by what we have as far as radar, especially we have a lot of these events at night, it seems like. So it's very difficult. So these folks really helped out. I know a lot of these folks are not really trained spotters, but anything does help.
Sure. Well, you know, we get those reports. The pictures speak 1,000 words, as we say. We appreciate everyone's input. We certainly appreciate the law enforcement folks who help us get that information out of not only what's happening, but what they need out, like stay away from Highway 50 east up along the Bedford area and those types of things to let people know what's going on in their communities.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, when the sun comes up here in a few hours up there, it's going to be interesting to see what additional damage we find. Of course, a lot of this happened right before sunset, but by the time anybody could get up there and really help out, the sun was already down.
We have crews that are in place there. You'll see their reports coming up first on Wave 3 News Sunrise, scheduled tomorrow morning. And as we go throughout the rest of the overnight hours here, outside of some rain, we'll wind up tracking those storms off to our east. So one more check with Scott and Dawn, guys, about 30 seconds here. Anything from you guys before we wrap up our coverage?
We just want to mention that the sunrise will start a little earlier at 4 a.m. And the nice thing is they can take that time now that we're not doing wall-to-wall coverage. Gene West and everybody on the team there can have the latest pictures from Facebook, the video damage, all the latest totals on outages and the information coming up starting at 4.
And again, I know we had some property damage, but we can say that no one died, and hopefully it's because you guys were able to warn folks.
And thanks for the warning actually several days in advance, which is really neat that you guys can say it's coming, and it's coming on Wednesday night, and it comes on Wednesday night.
Well, I think tomorrow, anybody that may have felt we hyped the coverage or the situation, tomorrow you're going to see why we were on when you see those intense pictures from Bedford, Indiana. For Andy and Brian and myself, thanks for watching.